Well, thank you everyone for joining us tonight and welcome to What's Up Wednesday. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Heidi Klomhouse. I am the Executive Director for Arizona Hands and Voices, and I am also the Program Coordinator for Guide by Your Side. And tonight we are very excited and happy to welcome Arizona State School for the Deaf and Blind Early Learning Program, as well as Deaf Mentor Program, to provide some update to families that receive services through them on what services will look like moving forward as we try to transition into back to, I should say, in-home services, and whether that's happening in a phase-in or what their strategy is to make that happen going as we move hopefully somewhat past this COVID-19 and back into some sense of normalcy. So with that, I want to welcome to the screen Melissa Hole. Melissa is one of the supervising teachers for the Southern region, and we have Dr. Kendra Benedict, who is the statewide director for the Early Learning Program. Welcome. And we also have the supervisor for the Deaf Mentor Program, Christina Varayo Davis. And with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to you guys. Who I don't know who wants to go first, but we very, very much appreciate you and your time tonight and sharing the information with all of us and the families. So.
I'll go ahead and start. We don't have anything formally planned, just kind of are here to share some updates and answer any questions you might have. But before I start, can I get an idea of who we have here? I see a lot of our providers on, so hello. I'm glad you guys are here. Can you just flash your camera on real quick, or give me a thumbs up on with using your reactions if you're a parent? Any other? Yeah, all right, awesome. Okay, cool. Just kind of wanted to get an idea of who my audience was, so thank you. So yeah, we are for the first time in how many months, guys? 13 months, 14 months, just starting to go back into homes. Melissa, my colleague, calls it a slow trickle, and I think that's a perfect way to describe it. It is on a not only county by county basis, but a local area by local area. As we all know, take a look at Cochise County or Maricopa or Coconino, and what's happening on one side, not quite what could be happening on the other side. So we do go by county metrics, but then we also use data happening in local communities. So there are some counties right now that are back in what is being called phase 1. The 3 different phases are alternative methods, phase 1, limited in person, and phase 2, expanded in person. And then after that would just be back to things as normal. So alternative methods is what we've been in all this time for the last 14 months. Reaching families either through Zoom or some other online platform, text messaging, email, phone calls, whatever it might be. And now we have some counties that have moved into phase 1, where on a case-by-case basis, if a child's needs are not being met through alternative methods, then we can look at some sort of in-person scenario, whether that be in the home, in the backyard, at a local park, at the child's daycare, wherever that might be. And again, on a very limited basis, and if the child's needs are not being met. We still want to practice with all precautions and keep folks as safe as we can as the number of people getting vaccinated goes up. I think we'll continue on this path, and that's exciting. But for now, that's kind of where we are. So wasn't an overnight, okay, we're back in homes now. And if you're wondering where we are and why we're not there yet, that's why, because it's not a full-blown, okay, we're back. So that's just a real quick and dirty overview of where we're at. I'll let Melissa and Chrissy share any thoughts that they might have, and then we can answer questions. Melissa?
This is Melissa. Yes, as Kendra said, we're coming back in a slow trickle, and The metrics are showing that it's safe to do so in certain counties, and the state of Arizona is definitely looking better and better for that. There are some protocols that are in place for us as well when we come back in. We will be still wearing face coverings, and we will still be utilizing social distancing. And so you know that we'll be doing health checks before we come in, and we'll have a little questionnaire to go over with each of you before we come into the homes to make sure everybody's healthy and well and it's safe for everyone involved. Christy, did you have anything to share?
Okay, sorry, moment for the interpreter. Go ahead. So I just wanted to mention that our mentor program, we have been clearing the ELP, and we're following those just the same. So we do have a lot of communication with the teachers, with the families, and that's really what's the only difference for us. When the time is right for us to go back in person, we're going to use a 50%, so 50-50. So what does that mean? So if a family, if we see them on a weekly basis, then, and we are able to see them in person, then 1 week we will see them in person. The next one will be Zoom. Then the next week will be in person, and it'll go back and forth like that. So it just depends on the counties, like what was just said. So we're doing that 50-50 method because our team, there's just not enough staff. We don't have a lot of staff. So we're trying to meet the needs and use that 50-50 method. Just like everybody had just mentioned about, you know, the counties and that we're looking to see what's going on. So we're just going to take our time.
Thanks, Chrissy. Melissa?
This is Melissa again. As all of you parents know, we work with the Arizona Early Intervention programs, and we are a part of each of your teams. What some of you may not know is that there are many different teams across the state that we work with. And so while we're looking at the metrics and looking at when it's safer to go in, we're also working with our teams to see what their decisions are as well. So we'll be working with your service coordinator, or if there are other team members that are coming into your home, that will also play a part in who's coming and how often. That's all a part of that slow trickle.
And to piggyback on that as well, Lisa Ring just joined us. She was having trouble connecting. Hi, Lisa. She's our supervising teacher up in the northern part of the state. And she and I have both been participating on ASIP's COVID task force since, gosh, last summer, I guess. I can tell you that ASIP has been putting in copious amounts of time into the resumption of limited in-person services. This is not something that they take lightly, as is evidenced by the fact that it wasn't until 12 months after the pandemic hit that we were even allowed to consider going back into homes. Schools reopened last August, many of them, but we did not. We continued through alternative methods. So Lisa, can I maybe, if you want to share just a little bit, it's just informal, anything that's happening up in the northern region and on the reservations and what services are looking like there?
Sure. Hi, everybody. This is Lisa Ring, and I'm one of our supervising teachers with the Arizona Schools for the Deaf and Blind. And I would say, because I joined a little late, I'm missing a little bit of information, but I would say, just to support what other folks are saying, we're following the metrics for when it is safe to return into limited home visits. And so a lot of our counties are not at that place yet where that is a safe thing to do. But for our counties that are, we actually are excited to get started and support the families with some limited in-person visits. So I just know of one teacher that went out today on the road, and was really excited to get to see a family, and they were going to be meeting outdoors And that was one county that is available to do that. Took a lot of conversations back and forth with the parents and setting up just the right situation so it was safe for everybody and everybody felt comfortable. So I was going to add that, just to make sure that if you have additional questions that you really do reach out to the teacher that's working with your family or the deaf mentor and, chat with them about those possibilities. And if you're not sure where the county is, where you live, and if it's open for limited in-person visits, just do reach out to the teacher that works with your family and connect with her. And I'm not sure if folks have talked about some of those things we really want to support families on. If you're feeling like you're at this critical point in your child's learning, say they just got fit with hearing aids and you want additional support for that, or they're like just ready to like make this breakthrough with something, we want to support your family with that. And of course through remote services, but if it feels like there's a need for a limited in-person visit, we're anxious to get back to do that too, when it's safe to do so.
And I'll clarify what limited means, because our own staff had questions about that. What does limited mean? Not only is it limited in the number of families that we're seeing, we don't want to go from home to home. Like in the past, we may, our providers may have seen 2 or 3 families in one day. We don't want to be doing that now. Part of our mitigation strategies and keeping this safe is to limit in-person visits to 1 family a day right now to avoid any cross-contamination. So that's one thing. And then limited in that they're not happening as often. We might do a combination like Chrissy just talked about, a 50-50 model. And then again, of course, not everyone we're not able to do it for everyone given the metrics of any particular county. So that's what we mean by limited in-person services. That was perfect, Lisa, thank you. So that's kind of just a quick and dirty overview. We'd love to answer any questions people might have, or we're here to talk and chat with you guys and inform you if we can. And if we can't, we'll find the answers and get back to you.
This is Heidi. Thank you so much, ladies. I don't see anybody just yet. If you have a question, feel free to turn your video on and raise your hand, or use the raise hand features within the reaction and we can call on you. Don't be shy. This is your opportunity to have, this open platform and be able to ask the questions that you want and to kind of get the same answer, because you have everybody here with, providing that guidance so that everybody's on the same page. So this would be a great opportunity for you to ask questions. I do have a question. Ira, go ahead. I'm going to let you go.
Hi, I'm Ira Ellefson's mom. Not really a question so much as a comment or an observation. I already told Estefania this the last time we met with her, but I just noticed that he is so much more expressive and communicative with sign language when he's with her on the computer. But, because he's 1, he gets maybe like these little snippets with her. He'll like come on and la la la, and then like disappear. And I know everybody's anxious to get back, but like, I just feel like it's so important that he be one-on-one with her as much as humanly possible. Because I do feel like I just noticed it's like such a huge difference the way he communicates with us with sign language versus her. It's just like totally different. Anyway, that's it.
And I want to encourage you to please talk to both the deaf mentor and your deaf and hard of hearing teacher and express this. If you're really wanting more in person, talk to them so they can talk to the rest of the EI team, the early intervention team. And if in your case, that's what's appropriate, so that you can get that. Because of course, and first of all, I'm just touched, and it just makes me want to cry to hear that your sweet 1-year-old is engaged at all on the computer with someone signing. That's just a miracle in and of itself. But yeah, so just talk to them and so we can get back in there if we can safely do so.
Yeah.
This is Heidi. Great. I see your hand up on Matthew's iPad. Go ahead.
Hi, it's Lori saying I'm one of the Guide by Your Side parent guides. And a question that I've gotten from several of my families is and I think this kind of just goes in general for early intervention. And then when they switch, when they turn 3, what's the difference of a child who is 2 years and 364 days old and a child that is 3 years old of getting in-person and virtual services? Like, they want to know why one can have in-person and one can't. And I don't know how to explain that to them.
And certainly, Melissa, Lisa, Chrissy, chime in here. In my mind, the easiest way to explain that is when you enter a school facility, a preschool or an elementary school, we can put mitigation strategies in place to better protect that environment. We can't do that in someone's personal home. There are very limited things that we can ask of a family. Well, most families, of course, would be compliant and put a mask on and tell us that no one has been sick in the last 48 hours, but things happen. And it could be that we walk into a house and there's a grandma that lives upstairs who's not feeling well. And about 2 days later, she's diagnosed with COVID. And so there's just so many uncontrollable scenarios in individual people's homes, where at a school, even though it's a larger environment, we have more controls we can put in place.
I think they're actually talking not about the school setting, but in-home therapies. How kids over 3 are getting in-person in-home therapies. And they want to know why. Like, what's the difference of a child that's 3 and a child that's 2 and 9 months or 11 months?
Let Melissa take that. She seems to have the answer.
I don't have the answer. This is Melissa. I don't have the answer, but what I can share is it's a different agency. And
Right.
that's their rules and their determinations, right? And
Okay.
and I've been confused by that from the beginning of this as well, because it's exactly the same question I've had. If we're talking about the same environment, what is the difference between an infant and a 5-year-old? I know there's a big difference, but what we're looking at the environment, and I don't know why that particular agency made that decision, but they did early on.
Right.
Lisa, did you have anything to share about that?
I was just going to say, even though they may be a state agency, they have had a different process. So I would agree with Melissa that they've made different determinations for that.
Similar to schools, look at school districts. School district to school district, you've got districts making different decisions. Some that have been open from the get-go, some that are still closed. So
That's a good analogy, Kendra.
Yeah.
So do you think the best way to explain it to them is just to say it's just different agencies and different policies that they have? Okay. Thank you.
This is Heidi. I was going to throw that same analogy out that you made about the schools, because two schools that are 3 blocks away from each other have very different policies of what they are on campus. So it would be the same idea, if you will, or same concept when it comes to 2 different agencies or organizations that you're receiving services from. They're going to have their own protocols in place, their own practices, things like that. So absolutely, that makes sense. Do we have any other questions from the audience? Feel free to turn your video on or raise your hand within the reactions. Ira.
Sorry, me again. And I'm sorry I came in late. Some of you guys already talked about this, but are you gonna have the Mommy Me program in the fall?
This is Melissa. I believe you're talking about the toddler class on the
Yes.
Tucson campus.
Yeah.
It is our hope to do that. I'm looking at Kendra's eyebrows. We're going through each of the phases for the in-home piece. And I think that that's the goal. We have to see what's going to happen with numbers and where we're going. Am I speaking out of turn there, Kendra?
No, not at all. And I think that's certainly our goal. And I can tell you one thing that that points to that goal is possible, because our campus, we are tied to our campuses. The preschool program in Phoenix and the preschool program in Tucson are on the main K-12 campus. And so we've had to abide by the mitigation strategies that they've put in place all year. And so one of those mitigation strategies has been no visitors on campus. And they have just decided, assuming that the statistics stay as they are and continue to improve, that starting July 1, we can have visitors back on campus, which means tours can continue again. Parents can start to see the preschool program as an option for their child if they choose to do that. It won't have to be over Zoom with one of our teachers carrying an iPad around the classrooms, bless their hearts. So that is a positive sign that we should be able to put that back in place. Staffing's a whole nother issue, but I think we'll be able to look at that as a definite possibility. So thanks for asking.
And this is Melissa again. It's also going to depend on numbers, right? We're still going to have to be looking, well, we'll see what happens in the fall, but right now we're still looking at how many folks can be in one area at a time. So it might not come back right away looking exactly like it did in the past, but it's the goal to start something again.
This is Heidi. Wonderful. Yeah, I can certainly understand that, monitoring at all times. We've put a pause and held the pause on any in-person events until we see what happens within the fall, because, if we look at last year, we were fine during the summer and then the fall hit and it was like, uh-oh. So I certainly understand that. I did see somebody come up on the screen. I want to say it right. Is it Bea or Baya? Did you have a question? I wanted to give you the opportunity if you did. Okay. This is Heidi. Feel free to go ahead and open up your video or raise your hand or use reactions if you have a question or a comment. I do have a question I'll throw out there, and you may have answered it in some way, but just for a little clarification. When you're talking about a county by county or case by case analysis as far as who's going to get services, our family